Morning.
Good
Joanne, how
morning.
are you doing?
Good.
It's Joanne and me today. This is going to be awesome. All right. And then we want to say hi to our YouTube audience and thank you for joining this morning in the sacred energy of spirit. Um, I think what we're going to do today is mix it up for you guys a little bit. And instead of doing our normal mediumship demonstrations and explaining how they work, we're going to back it up to the very beginning of our spiritual journeys and talk about them instead. So, before I do that, though, I would like to open this up with a prayer. We always pray to Spirit. So, if you don't mind joining me, please. Holy Father, Mother God, thank you for allowing us to come together today in the sacred energy of Circle. Please help us to open all of our senses, physical and spiritual, so that we can receive your messages without interference from our own minds. We humbly ask that you make the circle an uplifting and joyous experience for everyone in attendance. Please ask the spirits who recognize the voices in this room to join us this morning so that we will know that they watch over us, love us, and protect us still. And please allow us to deliver the information presented by Spirit with grace and compassion, in complete trust and respect of your infinite wisdom. Amen. Okay, perfect. All right. So, people have been watching us on this channel for some time, and they know that Joanna and I are both evidential mediums. But the question is, how do we get there?
hmm
So, we want to talk about that, and maybe we can encourage anybody out there who is interested in going this path. Maybe we can help you get started on yours, and that's our plan for the day. So, I want to talk about our very first early spiritual experiences. Okay. And so, Joanne, I'm going to kick that over to you. And can you tell me, like, the very first things that ever happened to you?
I have a memory of, okay, as a child, and it's always a scary thing because if we're not familiar or understand what we're witnessing, but it was a game. And it was, you can see a witch, and I can't remember how it had gone, but I was very young. And you can see him in the mirror and a woman rocking in a chair. And I'm like, what in the world? So, and I was always afraid anyways. They turned off the bathroom light and we looked in the mirror. And I, in fact, saw an old lady rocking in a chair that that really frightened me
I
because
know
I was
that.
so young.
Yeah.
Yes. But I
Okay.
actually saw a woman rocking in the rocking chair. Uh, that was my first time that I actually saw something. And so that was very frightening. But my other time is that when I had someone actually, or spirit, now that I know spirit, help me. Um, there was a storm. Uh, Actually, let me back up a little bit. I was told to bring a flashlight to church.
Oh,
And I was determined to bring the flashlight to church. I told my mother told me, well, she looked at me kind of oddly. Oh, well, keep it in your purse. Don't take it out. Fine. But even though she was going to say no, I still, that voice that told me that was so strong that if she told me don't bring it, I was still going to bring it because I felt it so strong. So anyway, I put it in my purse. Long story short, I go go to we went to church, and there was this freak storm that occurred, and all the power went out. And I had the flashlight, and I was so stoked that I had a flashlight. I lit up the flashlight. The parishioners were trying to find candles to light up everything. It was pitch black and no lights on the streets or anything. And we're walking down the street, and I had my flashlight to shine our path on our pathway. And then all of a sudden, we come to sort of a crosswalk, but I flashed it on, and my mother held me back. And I'm Puerto Rican. So she said, Mira para allá. She held me back, and what we witnessed was a power line that was on the ground. So there was that flashlight. If we hadn't bought that flashlight with me, or I hadn't brought it with me, we'd have walked into that flashlight because it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything. So that was my early memory. Like that really was. And then I remember my mother talking about that periodically as a kid. I had very, but they were sporadic. They weren't really consistent throughout my childhood. What about you, Carol?
Well, I don't have anything quite that dramatic, but the earliest thing I ever recall happening, I'm not one of those mediums that say I've been seeing spirits since I was a child. And I think that's because that may have been like quashed out of me.
Mm,
And and when I was about 3 or 4, I have this memory of being in my bed and then looking underneath my bed and seeing a man there. Okay.
mm,
And so I was terrified. I'm like, how do I get out of this bed without him grabbing me? All right. And but I was so terrified that I finally like bolted out of the bed and I ran downstairs and I told my mother and my grandmother, there's a man under my bed. There's a man under my bed. Okay. And then they come upstairs and they don't see the man.
mm.
All right. And then, of course, I got that's just your imagination.
Yes. Yeah.
And I got you have such a vivid imagination
Hmm.
all my life. And so everything that happened to me, I chalked it up to imagination. Okay. And I want to go back and bring up, talk about something that you brought up, Joanne, and that was the fact that you felt that need for the flashlight so strong, and
Hmm.
that's intuition. Okay.
Hmm.
And you actually followed your intuition.
But it was a voice that told me. I heard the voice, bring a flashlight to church. Like,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So you heard the voice. Okay. But you followed it.
Yes.
And how many people out there, all you people out there in YouTube land, okay, how many times have you felt that intuition telling you, number one, don't go to that place, don't date that man, don't trust him, okay, this kind of, how often have you felt that? And you have not listened to your inner sense because you've always been raised to be nice and polite.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. And I think, in my opinion, okay, in order to become a medium, one of the earliest things that you have to do is shed these mores that people have pushed on you your whole life. Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, you're crazy. You're imagining things. How about looking at it through a different lens and saying, well, maybe I'm not. And if I'm not crazy, what does this mean? All
Hmm.
right.
It's
And
yes, and quieting those voices. But there's yeah, that goes into a deeper topic. There's so many layers of that. Like you
yeah,
said, don't be a good girl, and especially for girls,
for
right?
girls, right?
Um, but there's other layers. Like if you were in a dysfunctional family, and then they accept it, so even though your intuition's telling you it's off, but being that they accepted it, then you sort of like follow and you're not going according to what your gut is telling you. So that happens too. Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes.
So I think that, first of all, just shedding these preconceived notions about what is nice, okay, and what you should do, flip the switch a little bit and say, well, what happens if I'm not crazy? What happens if I'm not imagining it? Follow that path, see where that takes you, and that might open up a whole new world for you.
Most definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, how about what was the first experience you ever had with being read?
Oh, yeah. So, my first experience, I lived in Florida, and I was going through a lot in my life, and I knew it was interesting because a lot of it growing up, it's growing up religious. You're told not to go to these people, But I was told about this really great medium. And I was a pinnacle time in my life where I needed some answers. So I went to see this woman, and I found out that she was a medium, and she did readings for like the police force. She was a forensic medium. And I walk in, and it's like stereotypical. She had like crystals in her room and everything, and she sat me down. And one thing that she did do was, and everyone reads differently, but now I know why she asked to have something that I own, that I only owned, and then she held it, right? And we'll go back to that. You can ask more about.
Okay.
So I gave it to her, one of my rings, and she held it, and then she began to read. And what blew me away was that when she mentioned my father's name, and then she mentioned my brother's name, and that a lot of the information that couldn't verify, I then asked my family, and then they were able to verify what she said.
Oh, that's
Blew
great.
me away. Like my head was spinning when I left. And that was such a great experience, my first experience. And it wasn't like I didn't believe her. It was just, wow, this is happening. And this woman can tap into all that. And how does she know it? And I just know she knew it, but I don't know how she knew it. It was just an incredible experience. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
And so,
Okay.
so strongly that someone else had suggested that she had told me uh, she was trying to get pregnant. And she said, I am not, getting pregnant. And so, this medium told her that she would have a child. And I knew in my gut at that point when she told me that she was, she was going to get pregnant as soon as she forgot everything. And sure enough, as soon
Ooh,
as she forgot everything and worrying about it and everything, she got pregnant.
okay.
Yeah.
Boy. Okay.
So it was sort of like, it was interesting that I always had the intuition, but I just didn't lean into it. Uh, because people will get, it's sort of like you can see through people, and people feel uncomfortable about that because a lot of people wear masks, right?
Right, right, right.
So when you see through that, I get a lot of that where they don't really, how are you doing? Good. They want, because they know that you can see through the mask. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but that goes on another.
Well, and going back to
Hmm.
the intuition issue, it's funny because, like, I have to admit, a full confession to, our YouTube audience here. There are so many times in my life that I just didn't pay attention to my intuition. And I actually had an experience once with a boss. Okay. And I was interviewing for a company, and I looked at this man come into the room to interview me, and then just in a flash like that, he changed to a cold fish. Okay.
Mm,
And then he was back to the man. Okay. But that image of the cold fish, like, stuck with me for the duration, the time that I knew him. And I actually went to work for him. And I'm sorry I did, because it was not a good experience. But, like, why didn't I pay attention to that cold fish? Okay. And that had to do with the fact that, honestly, I was chasing money.
mm,
Okay. I wanted a high paying job, and I was chasing money. So,
mm,
um, and I should have listened, because that was more headache than the money was worth, you know. But
hmm.
I want to go back, actually, and you
And
brought
I
up
want
the
to
issue.
address that. The
Yeah.
intuition is very, because people have asked me, what is intuition? It's very subtle. It's very quick. And
Hmm.
and it's like
Good
even
point.
keel doesn't shout, it doesn't shout. It is like you have to pay attention, and we
Yeah.
dismiss it.
Hmm.
And we feel it in our gut, like we witness it, and then we just quickly dismiss it. But
Hmm.
it's quick and fast, and it's even keel, like it's not, yeah. That's how I've always sensed it. And it's like a glitch in the matrix. Like you ever like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's an excellent point. Okay, that intuition happens very fast. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and like I think that when you were talking about having the voice shout at you, bring a flashlight to church,
Mm-hmm.
that is not a normal example of intuition.
No.
Okay, I think like my experience with the cold fish. Okay,
Yes.
was more like what intuition is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened so fast. And I said, oh, I have to put that thought out of my mind because I want this job with all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
stupid me. I regretted it. I really did. So, um, but, be mindful of those
Mm-hmm.
very quick flashes. Pay attention and say, I was on one path and then there was just one odd little thing that is catching my attention. What's the odd thing? Focus
Mm-hmm.
on not the obvious. Okay. And that will help your intuition.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have so many. I wish I had written them down, but I didn't know when they were occurring, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
But I've had oh, there's one. I share this with my now husband, but I knew when this woman walked in that it was more than just a casual relationship. And when I told him, when I said, "So how do you guys know each other?" Wanted to beeline the other direction because he didn't want to share how he knew
Oh,
her.
uh-oh.
In my intuition, I just like, and at that point, I was a lot older and I was a lot more confident in knowing that. And I was after a period in my life, everything it was falling apart, and the all I had was faith, and I leaned heavily on my intuition, and I was on it, but I didn't know uh, the terms actually, if that was intuition or clairvoyance or whatever. I just knew. I just knew that I knew.
Right. 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 Oh, my goodness.
And it was funny because, yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've ever had that. Like, there was another time where I had asked someone, and it freaked me out. I asked this person how they were doing, and they said they were okay. But what I witnessed was a face, a sad face over their face that freaked me out.
Yeah.
I was disturbed. I was hoping I didn't make a freaky like I'm because I'm so expressive, but I saw this frown over her face. And do you know that person tried to avoid me for a year because I saw through them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had that happen. And then I've also my daughter once showed me a picture of someone and I'm like, "Who is that?" And she told me who it was, and I'm like, doesn't look anything like that person, but that's exactly how that person felt because I described her, what I
Yeah.
was looking at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just it happens so quickly and it you feel it, like you know it. And then if someone else said, no, 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 whatever, and then it's sort of like it stays with you. I think it sort of stays with you for a period once you see it. It happens fast, but there's something there and makes you uncomfortable, right?
And that's an excellent point. And I'll give you an example of that. Okay. I used to work in an area where I would get off the bus, okay, and then would have to walk like a certain path, the most direct path to my place of employment took me through an alley. And I looked at that alley the first time and I said, I'm not walking down that alley. And there was no reason not to because lots of people walk down that alley. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go 2 blocks out of my way to avoid walking down that alley. Okay. And so, and think about like the naysayers in your life. You're crazy, you're superstitious. Okay,
Hmm.
superstitious word, this kind of thing.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, this is a true story. Okay. One of my coworkers came into work and she was sobbing. And I said, what happened? Okay. And here she had walked down the alley, and somebody had just come up behind her. He had run up behind her, reached up under her skirt, and pulled her pantyhose and underwear down to her ankles and ran off and laughed. Okay. But here she, this happened to her in this alley. And
Mm,
I would never go down that alley. I would go blocks out of my way to avoid
mm.
going down that alley. And thankfully, that was the worst that happened to her, although that was pretty horrible in
Yes.
my book. Okay, but that's why, like Joanne has said, okay, the initial intuition can be fast, okay, but it can also stay with you. And
Hmm.
there's an instance where that feeling about that alley stuck with me, for the entire time that I worked at that
Yeah.
place. So,
Most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Or it's, I get told a lot like, oh, come on, Joanne. I'm like,
yeah,
now I trust it. I'm like,
yeah,
this person's this.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, you're being like, not, because we're, as women and as we, depending on how you grew up, it's sort of like, oh, be nice, be kind.
be nice. Yep,
Yeah, and now I'm like this person's this way, and they're like, oh, and some people will like, oh, it's sort of like that Pollyanna, and I'm done with the Pollyanna. Pollyanna is not really being truth to yourself. You got to push that to
exactly,
the side
exactly.
and see it for what it is. Yes, I always wish, or not wish, but I can always see uh, good in people, but not every person is good.
Right. Very true.
So, now in my age, I sort of know what it is and see it for what it is, and done a lot of work. And I think that's what's so great with wisdom, right? We definitely know, and we don't push it away as often, or we don't push it away. We sit with it. We're like, what was that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. You know.
As you were talking, I was trying to think of other, but I know we're winging it today, so.
Well, I'm going to throw out a big one.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And that has to do with little children. Okay.
Mm.
And little children are astonishingly intuitive.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness. And what is interesting is like over the course of my life, how many parents I've seen say to their children, you be nice to that man. Okay.
Mm.
Because he's family. Okay.
Hmm.
And that little girl knew in her heart that that man was not nice. Okay. But
Hmm.
she had to be nice to the man because she was told, okay,
Hmm.
by, an elder. And then all of a sudden she ends up being assaulted, you know,
Hmm.
by that man. And like why we just squish this gift that little kids have
Hmm.
out of them, I'll never understand that. But we do. We
Hmm.
do, because we're so focused on being nice and polite, and why?
Mm.
There's a lot of harm that is done because of that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Um, I'm just trying to think of, well, my daughter is very intuitive. I remember, I can share this memory. I remember my daughter, I'm typing and I'm typing away and I've written a book, but anyway, before I even wrote the book, I'm typing and I'm typing to my mentor. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to be writing a book because I'm such a bad speller. And I'm typing it in my head. I'm saying that as I'm typing because I can't, I'm like misspelling the email to my mentor. And then all of a sudden, my daughter comes all the way downstairs and she said, God doesn't like it when you say you can't. I had, I looked at her, I hugged her, and I just started to
how old
cry.
was she? How
Uh,
old?
I don't know, 7, 6, 7, when she came
Wow.
downstairs. And I later found out that when I shared that story, she just remembers that, oh, I have something really, I know mommy's going to be happy about this. Like that's her feeling. Like she knew whatever she was going to tell me, I was going to be happy to hear.
Okay.
That's how she received it.
Okay.
And and it just brought me to tears.
Wow.
So our kids, especially now, they're talking about kids are the new generation. Kids are coming online a lot more intuitive.
Yeah.
And I think we, especially now with AI out there, and I love, using AI tools and things like that for spelling, because I'm not a great speller and things like that. But I think even more so, we got to lean into our intuition
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
because we have to decipher, is this in fact true? Or is this just information that's being spun out?
Boy, good
And,
point.
and what's
Good
the
point.
information and what's the
Yeah.
information that's true to us? So I
Yeah.
think if anything, this is a time that we definitely need to be quiet and quiet our because we have so much thrown at us. And I know myself, I'll um I'll start looking at so many because it's so much and I have so many interests. I'm like ADHD. I'm like, oh, this topic, this topic. The
Yeah.
algorithm
Same
doesn't know
here.
what to send me because I'm always feeding into so many things. But it's just quieting that mind. And the only way to really tap into your intuition is definitely quieting your mind. And what do you think, Carol? I mean, that's how it's just quieting
Well,
my mind and stopping all the noise. Yeah.
I agree 100% with that. Stopping that noise is not only to increase intuition, but also for basic mental health, you know,
Mhm.
um, because having all that chatter coming into your ears from social media and whatnot is so draining of your energy. And that's one thing that I have to tell you is you have to have a lot of energy to be able to do this work.
Mhm.
Okay. Whether it be psychic work or mediumship work, you have to have the mental energy to listen to those very tiny snippets that you get because the information comes down so small and so fast that you have to
Mhm.
have that focus. And you cannot have that focus when you've got all this chatter going on in your ears. And that's why um, mediums will spend a lot of time in meditation, okay, just shutting out that outside world, going within and
Mhm.
listening to what is going on in here.
Mhm. And
Okay.
that's a great point because I've had information that I sort of dismissed and it comes in really fast and then the person the sitter who I'm reading for will then say it. I'm like, "Ah, I didn't say it." Because I dismissed it.
Doesn't
Yes,
count, doesn't count.
exactly. Yes. But yes, and that happens to us too. Yeah, Carol, it doesn't account, doesn't count. Yes. Yeah, that's so true.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you know what? I want to kind of go off in a different direction and talk
Hmm.
to our YouTube audience about like the difference between psychic work and mediumship work. And I have two examples in mind that I want to talk to you about. And first of all, mediumship, mediums talk to people who've crossed over to the other side. Okay. Psychics are focused on intuition and picking up vibrations from people. And I'll give you an example of actually the very first psychic reading that I ever had was a phenomenal psychic reading. And a bunch of girls went to this Chinese restaurant after work one night, and you could go and you could get dinner and you could pay $10 to see the psychic. And so we're like, yeah, we want to do this, and so we did. Okay. And I met with this psychic, and she was this old woman who was almost blind, and she took my hand in her hand and she started rubbing it, and she started to tell me all these things about me that were pretty specific and true. And but the one thing that caught my attention, the most memorable part of this was she said, you need to tell the big man that you work with that he's very sick and he needs to go to the doctor.
Wow.
Okay. And that was like out of the blue because I worked with one man, whole office of ladies, one man. Okay. And he was indeed very big. And I sat on this for a couple of days, okay, because there was so much that this woman had told me about myself that was spot on, okay. But I was struggling with the fact that I knew that if I'd gone into my boss and told him this, you know, he would have just ridiculed me. Okay, like, you
Mm.
stupid women, blah, 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 this kind of thing. And I didn't want the abuse from him. Okay. So I wrestled with this for a couple of days. Okay. And then finally I said, you know what? He is the father of two little girls. And I said, if those two little girls lost their father over something that I could have prevented, I know in my heart I will never forgive myself for that.
Mhm.
So I sucked it up and I stood in the doorway of his office and I said, okay, now I just want you to know, that, everybody in the office went down to see this psychic at the Chinese restaurant the other night. First thing out of his mouth is, "Oh, you stupid women, wasting your money like that." Like this. Okay, this is what he says, and I was prepared for that, blast coming back at me. And I said, "Yeah, but shut up and listen to this." Okay, so I told him everything that she had said about me that was true, and he knew it to be true. Okay, and then I said, the reason that I'm telling you this is because she told me to tell the big man that I worked with that he was very sick and he needed to go see a doctor. And at the time, he was about 40 years old and he had not been to a doctor since his high school football physical. Okay.
Wow.
And so his reaction is, oh, yeah, crap. Yeah, blah, 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 this kind of thing. And he blows me off. Okay. But he comes in like a week later and he said, well, if it makes you happy, I'm going to go see a doctor. Okay. So I said, good. Okay. I'm glad, and I pray, that all is well. Okay. And so he goes to his doctor's appointment and then he comes back and he puts his head in my door very defiantly. And he said, well, I want you to know that I went to the doctor and the doctor says I'm perfectly fine. And I said, I'm really genuinely happy to hear it. And then he says, except there's one thing that they have to retest. And those little antennas go up like this. Okay. And I said, oh, okay. All right. Well, I pray that all works out well. Okay. And the thing that they had to retest was his white blood cell count.
Mm.
Okay. And because it had come out abnormally high, and the doctor just said sometimes they get false positives. And he said the test did not align with everything else that happened in the physical. And so he just wanted to run the test. And so they reran the white blood cell test. And when they went back the second time, his white blood cell count was higher than the first one. Okay. Tested it a third time, it's even higher. Okay. And then they're panicking because they have no idea what is going on with this man. Okay. Then all of a sudden, he started to have internal bleeding. So
Whoa.
they admitted him to the hospital, and the doctors are in a panic because this man is literally dying right before their eyes, and they have no idea what's going on with him. And they finally isolated this to he had an infection in his pericardium, which is the sac that contains the heart. So
Uh-huh.
every time that his heart beat, it was
Yeah.
bursting cells in the pericardium and causing this internal bleeding. And the bottom line was that he ended up being out on full-time disability for 6 months. Okay. And then when he came back, he could only work part-time for another year.
Wow.
Okay. Because it had caused such damage to his heart.
Wow.
But in that instance, going back to what that woman told me,
Yeah.
okay, that was a psychic reading, okay, a
Yeah.
prediction of what is happening in the future. Okay. Now, on the other hand, um, I'll use Joanne as my example here. I had probably the most memorable and amazing mediumship reading in my life from Joanne. Okay. Because she told me, I can't even say this without crying about it. I'm sorry.
Uh,
But she told me she had contacted my father on the other side. And my father told her about a little red heart that I had had the funeral director put in his pocket when he died. And he was buried with my little red heart. And I never told anyone that
Mm,
story. Never. Okay. So, and there's my dad telling this to Joanne, and it was just amazing. But that's what mediumship is. Mediumship is communication with people who are on the other side. Psychic work is more intuition based. Okay. But interestingly, the best mediumship often is a combination of psychic work and mediumship work.
hmm
Okay.
hmm
Because all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. So, what do you think, Joanne?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think really great psychics are mediums.
And you might
Really
be
great
right. Yeah, and they
psychics are
just don't
mediums.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think because I have a friend who's a really incredible psychic and she taps up and because she's just so good. And I've had that. But I know that a lot of people would like to just, and it's interesting because a lot of people, when I first started, they thought they were getting a psychic reading. I was reading into their energy, telling about their future, and I'm bringing them forth their dead grandfather that they never met, And so you have to be prepared when you go to a psychic or go to a medium. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what it is. And yes, like for myself, when I do a mediumship reading, I'll then say, "Do you want to know anything?" And I could just read into your field. But I prefer to connect to spirit because the fact that my mentor even told me that we all have free will. And even though I can tell you something, that can all change because we all have free will.
Yep.
So she always preferred to connect with spirit and have spirit because spirit always knows best than us tapping into your energy and letting you know what's going to happen and transpire because we're just really feeding into that pool of energy around you that we're tapping into. And that's interesting because in the very beginning, I know for myself, I couldn't decipher which was which,
Same here. Same here. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because it feels the same.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
feels the same.
Yeah.
But then gradually I know that I really can't be in my head. And that's why I say I can't it puts me in my head. Like I can't. Like I know I have to be quiet and nothing going on for
Mhm.
spirit to communicate. And so that I know that it's not me reading, it's spirit sharing. So
Yeah.
that's what I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's an excellent point. Yeah.
hmm
I agree 100% that in order to be on the mediumship side of the house, your mind has to be so much more quiet than when
hmm
you do psychic work. You can be at a baseball game and, do a
Oh
little bit of
yeah.
psychic work right there. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But you cannot pull in spirit in that kind of environment. It is just, too distracting to
Yeah,
be able to
unless
do
you're
that.
really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm a
Unless
good
you're, yeah,
psychic. As I say, I have
yeah,
that she taps in, but she prefers to do psychic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
But she does. Yeah.
let's talk about that tapping in. Okay.
Mhm.
For because I know there are people who are watching us who are saying, well, I know that I've felt someone, okay, and they're picking up the sense and they don't know what it is, okay? And sometimes um that can just be like I've had it happen where I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand
Mm,
up and
sorry.
I turn around and there's nobody behind me. Okay.
hmm
Um, I've also picked up smells around me that don't belong in the environment that I'm in. Like, I will smell flowers in my kitchen when
hmm
I have none, you know, this kind of thing. And often that's how a mediumship contact will start um, with someone who has somebody in spirit. And have you experienced this, Joanne, too?
Um, I have um with, and I'm so sorry, I got distracted with the phone. I'm like, So I was half listening. So can you repeat yourself again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about like initial,
Yeah.
like, very light contacts, like, you feeling the hair go up on the back of your neck,
Yes, yes.
and knowing that nobody's there, or smelling like
Oh yeah.
flowers in my kitchen and there's
Oh
no
yes.
flowers in my kitchen.
Oh
And
yes.
you had those kind of
Oh yes. And I
contacts.
remember all of a sudden I'm walking and I smell this sweet flower
Yeah.
scent. And I asked my daughter, "Do you smell that?" She's like, "Smell what?"
Uh-huh.
And I knew it was my mom. Like I just knew it was my mom. Another time though, there was this one lady who didn't do psychic work or mediumship, but she was a full-blown empath. So she was tapped in, but didn't know when she was tapped in. And she was in the car with me. And I said to her, "Do you smell that?" And she said, yes, she did. She smelled exactly what I smelled. And it was exactly the same fragrance.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And that goes a whole other story that I was really wanting my mom. And it's interesting how spirit uses other people in your life to deliver information, even though they don't practice this. And it's so beautiful when it happens. And she brought me lily of the valley flowers
Uh-huh.
that she had gotten
Oh, that's very distinctive. Yeah.
from her garden. And
Yeah.
she presented it to me. And she said, "Oh, I wanted to give you this." And she said, "It's it's when people give this around Mother's Day." And
Oh.
I was like, because I really wanted to hear from my mom. And not only that, it was also around the time of my mother's birthday. And and then if she hadn't witnessed it, then it's one of those things that you're thinking, did I really see that? So
Hmm.
as we're walking, I'm walking down the street. I look up at the sky and there's this perfect heart in the clouds. We didn't
Oh.
have our phones. I
Oh.
said, I nudged her. I says, "Do you see that?" And she said, "Yes." So it was so beautiful that she witnessed it with me, but I didn't have my camera where I can take a picture of it. And it was so beautiful. And I knew it was my mom because my mother always gives me signs of hearts
Oh
from the
my
very
gosh.
beginning.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's so beautiful when that happens is when you have people around you that remind you, even though they don't do this work, that your family's with you. And that was a blessing. And the scent. So the scent, going back to the scent, it was exactly that scent, the lily of the valley scent that I smelled and
Wow.
that she smelled in the car.
Wow. Oh, that's too cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's really interesting, really interesting.
Okay. So Joanne's bringing up a good point here. And, for the benefit of our YouTube audience, okay, suppose that, um, you're just running around minding your own business, and all of a sudden there's like Joanne used the term, a glitch in the matrix that you can't explain. What might that be? You have wind chimes going off when there's no wind. Okay. You have a scent that you're picking up where there should be no scent. Um, or like the hair stands up on the back of your neck, or you feel
You smell
somebody's there.
cigars? A
Oh,
cigarette?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Cigarettes is another one. Okay. From somebody who smoked this kind of stuff. Okay. That, when spirit tries to contact you, um, it's easy for them to contact mediums because we are so open to it. But um, for people who do not practice this routinely, you're more uh, like kind of like in a thicker bubble than what we're in. Okay. And so the information that they're trying to give you often will not get through to you like it will to us, just because you're not as open to it
Mhm.
as we are. Okay. And part of that has to do with blocking off that other noise that is going on, getting rid of the doubts. Did I really see that? Change that question to, suppose I really did see that. What would that mean?
Mhm.
look at the glass half full instead of the glass being half empty. Okay. That will change your perspective completely. But they try, um, in my opinion, I don't think spirits really want to talk, to me, okay, like your spirits out there in YouTube land, okay, I don't think your spirits want to talk to me because they don't know me from Adam, okay. The only reason that they go through me is because I listen better than you do,
Hmm.
okay. That's the reason that they come to me. Otherwise, if you would listen better, they'd cut me out of the equation and they would talk directly to you.
Hmm.
Okay. And that is the sense that I get from spirit. I actually had, it's kind of interesting. I actually had that come up in a reading where I had was there with a daughter who had lost her father, and her father came in, and it was the first time that he had ever come into a medium, and he said to me, "Give the phone to Diane." Okay. I went like, what? Okay. And he said, put Diane on the phone, and Diane being the girl who was,
Yes.
I was reading. Okay. And then I realized that spirit, I was so confused. I finally said to my sitter, I said, did your dad have challenges with technology? And she laughed and she said, oh my God, yes. Okay. And I said, okay, I have to help him out here because I don't think he understands that this isn't a telephone. Okay.
Yes.
And that was his first time. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And he did not understand that this wasn't, he thought it was some high tech telephone that he was talking on. And he wanted me to give the phone directly to his daughter so that he could talk directly to his daughter.
Yeah.
And and yeah, they want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to me so much, but you guys just aren't open enough to it. So,
And that, and also, yeah, and that's why when people come to mediums is so
mhm,
that they connect with their loved ones, and we're happily to do that for them because we love doing this. We love connecting to spirit because we, in fact, have to raise our vibration in order to meet them.
mhm,
And I know that in order to do that, I have to do my work and practice so that I feel like becoming a medium, we learn how to center ourselves, to quiet our minds, and in fact, I think it helps me throughout my day because I know when my aware that when my mind is racing, that I need to just quiet it down and center myself.
mhm,
So, I know as for myself, I try to do the work. We're not perfect, no one's
mhm.
perfect. And if someone says that they are, run. And no
Yeah.
one, if someone
Amen.
says they're your guru, run. I've had that happen. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh.
Amen.
So, and I question things all the time. Even other really well-known mediums, they'll tell me things, and I have to have proof myself. Like, I'm like, okay, you told them to tell, I what you told me through a medium, but I need to know. Give me proof. Do you do that, Carol? Because I know I do that all the time. Like, I need proof.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm trying to get rid
Uh,
of uh like that self-doubt, give
no,
me proof.
yeah, I understand, but I
Yeah.
but I want to know. Like, I
Yeah.
want them to share it
Yeah,
directly.
yeah, 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 because there is that part of me that is very left-brained,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, and I have to consciously get myself out of that side of my brain and push myself over
Uh,
to this side of the brain. And while I'm talking about that, I actually want to tell our YouTube audience about a really great exercise I got for that. And there was a woman who I took a remote viewing class from, and she said the important thing is that you have to be okay in the right side of your brain. Okay, so in order to do this, she said, imagine you have a gauge in front of you like this. It's a line gauge like this. Okay, and she said, so take the gauge, start it here, and then move it to the right side like this. Okay. And when you do that, you know, you'll be in the right side of your brain. And I thought, nah, okay. But I tried it and it worked. Okay. So,
really?
yes. Okay. So, now I did it a lot quicker than you do it in practice. Okay.
Yeah.
But, you visualize just this line. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and just this little dot traveling along the line
Hmm.
like you would see on the bottom of like a YouTube video, like the status bar on a
Yes.
YouTube video. Okay, it just travels to the right. Okay, visualize that line and your brain will follow it. I
Oh,
said,
funny.
dang, how about that? Very useful tool for me.
Yeah, or another one, I'm sure you heard this one with the to raise your frequency. It's like turning a dial on a radio and raising it up. And imagine that. You're
Yeah,
changing the dial to get to a different frequency.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, That's interesting. I got to try that one. I'm definitely a right brain, but I do tend to because I think a lot, get my left brain. So whenever I say I need to get out of my head, I need to get out of my head, and that's to remind myself, quiet, Joanne, stop thinking, allow.
I'm lucky because like my whole career was spent in very left brain. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But like I have acquired the ability to just shut that side of my brain off and go over here,
Yes, yes.
and you have to be able to shut, that because this is where all your self doubt is, on
Mm-hmm.
the left side of your brain. You say, well, how could that possibly be? Um, and it's funny because in mediumship readings, um, more often than not, like I'll be honest, okay, like mediums can go through like a lot of angst about saying things because they don't think it possibly can be right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, and Joanne even said, earlier today, she said, oh, I should have said that, because she confirmed it. But like sometimes just this random name will come into your head,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And you'll go, this side of your brain says, well, that doesn't fit with anything. Okay. So
Or
I'm not
you
going to
know
say
it,
it.
or you know it. You're like
Yeah.
you know it. Like
Yeah.
psychic, like it's sort of like it feels psychic, but they're telling you I don't know. It's a little
Yeah.
combination of that. And it
But it
happens
doesn't
really
match
fast.
the rest. It
Yes.
doesn't match the rest of the evidence that's going on in the reading. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, something like totally off the wall, like, you're sitting here and you're talking with who you think is a college professor and, a fine, upstanding guy, this kind of thing. Okay. And then over here on this side of the brain, you hear some totally random thing like, oh, he beat his wife. Okay. And you go, oh, no. And you throw that away. Okay, and then you find out he beat his wife,
Yeah.
and so, that's stuff like that happens that's very distracting, and
Yeah.
and it takes a long time to be able to work through that self-doubt and
Mm-hmm.
say those things because those are very often, what we call golden nuggets, um, where it's evidence that's so obscure that nobody knew it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Yes, most definitely. Um, I was gonna say, and I should have written it down because I'm like squirrel and I follow what's going on. And I had a question about earlier when you were talking about.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, if hang on to the thought, okay, and
mhm.
I'm just going to throw something on here for like people who are interested in pursuing more, about mediumship and psychic work, even, this kind of thing. Do you have any tips, Joanne, for people who are trying to study, what might work for them?
Find a local circle. I started basically when I had went to a local medium, and she had started these classes about preliminary classes about learning your energy centers, what they're called, your clairs. Um, and then I started doing, I was not comfortable going to circles yet. So I started at home meditating and then getting up every morning and then jotting down how long it took for me to connect to spirit. And then I jotting. And so the time, and then it got shorter and shorter and shorter. Sometimes I had to sit a longer periods of time before my racing mind would quiet down, and then it got shorter and shorter and shorter to the time where I needed only like a few minutes or 5 minutes so to connect with spirit. But it's having a practice every day. Not
Hmm.
every day. You don't have to do every day, but I did every day. First thing in the morning. And I think in the morning for me, I'm a morning person. So
I'm
I
a
like,
morning
yeah.
person too.
So I
Yeah.
like getting up and I and honestly I've been getting away from that. But in the morning, allowing just 10 or 15 minutes and then journaling the information you get. So for me, it was automatic, sort of automatic writing. I would listen, Spirit would talk, and I would just take a journal. And for a year, I did that. And then at that point, Spirit said, you need to get out and join circles. And then that's when I started practicing and going to groups that were being held. Uh, Places you can find are Meetup, where they have, that's where I had found one, or anywhere locally where you live, you can find places where you can practice. I think in person is great because you learn a lot more. I mean, virtually, obviously, we learn through COVID. You can learn a lot of things through Zoom, but
Mhm.
having that
Mhm.
in-person experience is also very beneficial. It makes it, I know, tactful. Like, it's like you're present with that person. The energy's different. Don't you feel, Carol, in person than in Zoom? But
Well,
yeah.
I'm
I mean, we do
really,
Zoom. I understand that, but
yeah.
there's something we gotten away with. I know I have, not being in person with another person, what I mean, doing that.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad you brought that point up.
Yeah.
Okay, because and you talked about the importance of being with other people, and there's a specific reason for that. Like, don't take the attitude, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Okay, because if you try to hide yourself in a closet and work with yourself only, you'll progress, but you will progress at a much slower rate
Mm-hmm.
than you would if you were out practicing with other people. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason for that is when you're by yourself, you only produce so much energy. Okay. But when you're in a group of other people, other beginners, okay, there's so much more energy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And spiritual energy that causes more people, spirits to come in.
Yes.
Okay. So doing the group thing is so, so important. Okay. And I'll tell you what, while I'm thinking about it,
So
I
I
will
want
at
to
the,
touch something. I want to touch something
yeah,
about
go
that.
ahead.
I had a friend who said, I don't know, because she was intuitive. She says, every time I'm around you, she gets more like those goosebumps and things like that because I've done the work and I'm tapped in. And then so, like Carol said, when you're with someone else, it generates, there's this palpable energy. Like if the person raises their frequency, or is that it elevates the other person along. Just
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
someone else can pull you down, someone can lift you up. And I've
Yep.
been told that a lot.
Yeah.
So when you get two people like us and other people, and you're doing a psychic reading, it's like it's boom, 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 boom. The information just flows so effortlessly,
Hmm.
even though, you're good, it does. But I just find that, with other people as well who are doing this work.
Well, I'm just going to let our YouTube audience know that Joanna and I are going to put our heads together after this discussion and put together a list of resources for beginners that you can go to. And like I say, encourage you to get out of the closet. Okay. Get out of the mindset that says, I'm not good enough. I need to be by myself and learn more. You're wasting time. Okay, get out there and do it in a group because that's much more productive. And Joanna and I will put our heads together and come up with a list of resources for you where you might be able to get out there with a group of people and
Mhm.
start feeling the benefit of that group energy and how like these little bits of information you get when you're by yourself all of a sudden go into big bits of information because you're in a group that has so much more energy. It's
Mhm.
really a phenomenal thing to see.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone, if you're going down this path, to definitely get yourself out there and don't
Yeah.
be afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you learn from the no's, even though it's like, no, you learn from them. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, talking about the nose, it's kind of interesting. I actually took a class where uh, the whole objective of the class was, is if say I'm the medium, you're the sitter, okay,
Hmm.
your job as the sitter is to say to me, no matter what I tell you, whether it's true or not, you have to say no.
Wow.
Whether it was true or not, just to get that out of your system, that no, 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 you know what I mean? And it
So,
was it
yeah.
was very funny. Okay. But like Joanne said, okay, those no's actually teach you something, because it may not be that your information is wrong.
Hmm.
Okay. It may be that like you didn't quite get what spirit was telling you.
Hmm.
And that's an opportunity to go back and say, hey, spirit, I'm sorry, I don't think I quite got that right. Can you give that to me another way?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you ask again, spirit never gives you bad information.
Hmm.
Okay. If you come up with something that is blatantly not true, it did not come from spirit. It came from this side of your
Hmm.
brain.
Or your interpretation is wrong. You're off.
Yeah.
You're not, they're
Yeah.
giving you information, but you're not able to relay the information correctly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Because that happens to me. I'm like, yeah, yeah. I love it when it flows easily, but sometimes it's you're gathering the information and you feel it, you sense it, everything, but you're not quite landing exactly what you're picking up. I've had that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be also that the spirit had problem with communication. I've had where I was struggling with the reading and I found out later that they had mental health issues. And so it was all over the place. And I was
Who
like,
had mental health issues?
the spirit that I was
This.
bringing forward had
Oh,
mental
okay.
health issues. And the reading was so, I felt like it was like the worst reading ever. And it was actually evidential because because it was scattered and it didn't flow and it didn't make any sense. And I felt kind of off. And that was the energy I was bringing forward. And it was challenging for me, but it was evidence that's how the person was.
Yeah, yeah.
They lived
I
it.
had a similar experience when I brought in a spirit who was autistic. Okay.
Mm,
And but it was a great learning experience, because now all of a sudden I know what it feels like to be autistic, and
mm,
what a different perspective you have on the world
hmm,
when you have autism. So, um, you know, but other things will happen too
hmm,
along those ways. Like I know I had a class with a gentleman who told me that he had brought in a mafia boss. Okay, and the energy just felt very, as you
mm,
can imagine, it was not a light, happy
hmm,
person,
hmm,
it was a very, very heavy person. And as a medium, like he said, I struggled with that, because um, you want to say wonderful things about, oh, he was a great person. Well, no, he wasn't. He put hits
hmm,
on people,
hmm.
but you still have to be kind, because he's left behind people who love that man. Okay.
Yeah, and but also depending on and that's tricky. That goes to another, oh my goodness, another
Yeah.
rabbit hole information
Mhm.
like because we do this live stream, we also do platform and it's a public uh sometimes I it's not like I don't know, it's that sometimes I prevent myself from telling it because it's a public forum and I want to be able to express it enough for the sitter to understand. And sometimes I'm not giving enough information for them to understand. And the good thing is that I can then inform the person later on what I was feeling and the information. But it's a delicate situation, I feel, because having that I ethical, spiritual efficacy and having that. And I
Mhm.
think that is very crucial. You don't want to be, I mean, we're not, spirit tells us information, and we have to be very delicate in how we deliver the information because uh,
Mhm.
I was told that it's very important because we can elevate someone or we can tear them down
Hmm.
and how we deliver the information. And I know for myself, I want to elevate the person, and that's why I do it, to help someone move past something, to heal. Uh, that's why I do it. Yes, it's not to say that it's going to be rosy. Someone might come in and they might have had a tumultuous relationship with this person, and that person may not want that person to come through, and you have to sort of honor them. But I know for a fact that spirit always wants to move forward and help that person heal. And and this is going another way, as a medium, a practicing medium, I know that we have to do the work and be able to accept, because it's another layer of healing, that person that caused us harm. And as a practicing medium, I know we have to continuously do the work because I don't know. What do you feel, Carol? I mean, it's just,
I'm really glad
yeah,
that you brought that point up,
yeah.
okay, about elevating people, okay.
Hmm.
And I'll give our YouTube audience a great example of that, okay, because when you're learning a common um phrase that you'll hear, okay, is just give what you get.
Mm.
Give what you get, okay? And Joanne's actually encouraging you to give what you get, but, okay, package it in a way that does not hurt your sitter. And I would say don't ever lose sight of the back half of that
Hmm.
equation. And I'll give you a great example of that. Okay, I witnessed a reading where the medium um, was talking about um, a man who had poisoned the sitter's dog. Okay, and this medium was going on and on about the horrible things that happened to the dog. Well,
Mm.
why would you do that? Why would you do that? Okay. Or another instance, there was an instance where a better way of dealing this, okay, was is that there was a medium who told us afterwards that he had seen um, this woman's son, and he was hanging by the neck, okay, because he had committed an act of autoerotic um, suffocation. So he was not found in a good place. Okay. Those are terrible scenarios. Okay.
Hmm.
But the difference between the first medium, okay, with the dog, that medium went on and on and on. Okay. And the sitter said to her, please stop, please stop. And the medium would not listen. And that crossed an
Mm.
ethical line and went into cruelty. It doesn't matter whether you know it or not. You don't
Hmm.
damage your sitter like that. Okay. In the second case with the man who was found hanging, okay, the medium simply said to the woman, you understand that there was a problem with his neck. Okay. And the woman said yes. And he said nothing else about the act of how he was found. Because
Hmm.
why would you? Why would you need to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It serves no good and it's hurtful. So don't
And I've
say
had
those
that done
things.
to me too. And
Ugh.
I don't need to relive the pain that we experienced.
Yeah.
I All you need to do is share that information. I get it. You want, and a lot of people get in what they call their ego. We all have ego. We can't get rid of our
Yeah.
ego, but they want it because I want to prove I know the information and they're going to spew it out. It's good to know information on specific things, but not when you're spewing out basically cruelty to the sitter
Mhm. Right.
and sharing all this detailed information that the sitter already experienced and grieved through and still grieving through that loss. You never stop grieving for the loss of your loved one. And to perpetuate that experience for that sitter is not good at all. So, Yeah, and it's been done to me too. And it's a good thing that it had been like so many years after that situation had happened. We just don't need to have the sitter relive that. I feel that they're there to be offer some healing connection with their loved ones. And also that's just a little small experience what their loved one had gone through. They lived this beautiful life that only the sitter will know, and you want to be able to share all those beautiful memories. Yes, you can hit on that, but you also have to share other stuff because they've had, depending on who the spirit was, yeah, they might have lived a short life, but you share that little beautiful short life that they lived, and they have so much more there
Yes,
that you
yes,
can share.
yeah,
Yeah.
than to just focus on the bad stuff. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
most definitely.
yeah.
That's a touchy subject for me, so.
Well, yeah, yeah, it is. But, I also think it's important, for
Mhm.
people, who are trying to study and mediumship to understand that,
Most definitely.
you really have to, above all, get your ego out of the way. Okay.
Hmm.
Your sitter is always number one. And it doesn't matter if you're right. Okay. You know you're right. That's all that you need. You don't have to
Hmm.
prove it.
No.
Okay. And, don't ever hurt your sitter by, you know, bringing in things
All
that
the
might be
details
painful.
that, yeah, the
Not
painful details.
necessary.
Mm-mm.
Not necessary.
No. Unless you're like working for a police force and being a forensic,
Well,
medium and
you
then
talked
sharing
about that.
information. Yeah.
You talked about that police work, and let's go down a different
Hmm.
road, okay, and Joanna, talk about what people who do police work do, okay, real quick.
Well, I don't personally do it, but but
Yeah,
I
I know,
know
but
that they work for the police force, and that's basically what they were doing is tapping into like I'm sure they can type in psychically and mediumistically, talking to the spirit probably, and then also trying to gather all the information. It's like what you had mentioned before is doing that uh, when you're scanning an area. I'm going drawing a blank right now. Um, uh, Viewing. I can't
remote
remote viewing.
remote viewing. Yeah.
When you're doing remote viewing of an area and you're working with the police force. Now, obviously, with that, you're getting into a lot of, you know, gritty details about
Mhm.
the situation. And it takes a certain person to do that, to constantly be in, trying to decipher psychically and mediumistically what had transpired to that person. I don't think I have the stomach for that.
I
Uh,
know I don't. I know I
yeah,
don't, but
yeah.
I've known people who have done it. And for the benefit of our YouTube audience, there's an excellent TV show out there called Psychic Detective. And
Mm,
what they did, there's actually an Australian version and there's a United States version too, but the Australian version is really, really good. But what the police department does is they bring in mediums to help with cold cases that the police
mm,
were not able to solve. And it's kind of like a last ditch, type thing, but will take the mediums out to the scene of the crime. And they actually don't tell the mediums anything um, about the case. Okay. They just will give the medium, like maybe a piece of clothing or something that belonged to uh, the person who is in spirit, and then take them to the place. And then the medium just gets all this information that the police know to be true because they've collected the evidence forensically. And then what they're hoping for is the medium will be able to pick up additional details. And
hmm.
that's a fascinating process to watch too.
Yeah, I gotta watch it
Yeah.
myself.
But yeah, but it takes a special
Mm.
person to do that kind of work, and that's not me because some of those crimes I know that they talked about in that TV show, they just make me cry to hear about them. I couldn't be actively involved in them. I'm unfortunately a wuss that way. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm the same way. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Well, okay, Joanne. Well, this has been fun. It's been
Yeah.
something different here. Any closing tips for anybody before we sign off here?
Just take time for yourself and 10 or 15 minutes if you're, beginning on this journey and journal your experiences. I never I know people who journal everything and everything that happens. I don't. So what happens is that also when you tap in, I know I forget most of the stuff that I've shared. So when people bring up, oh, remember I'm like, well, I don't remember that because spirit told it to me. But there's certain key elements that you want to, oh, I remember that name, or I got this many names. And it's kind of fun in the I know for myself, in the very beginning of a spiritual discovery is learning so many things. And for me, it was like a kid in a candy store and learning everything, all the nuances of becoming a medium or a psychic. Uh, I don't know. What do you think, Carol? It's just,
Oh, I agree with you, and I'm going to add one more piece of advice to that. And my tip for our audience is to make an appointment with spirit and show
Mhm.
up to your
Yeah.
appointment. In my book, consistency is the key. And it doesn't matter what time block. Joanne and I are actually both morning people, and our appointment time with spirit is 9 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. And that we do this live stream every Saturday morning, but we also meet every day, okay, at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make that appointment time. Doesn't matter when it is, how long it is, make the appointment, show up, okay? Because spirit will meet you for your appointment
Hmm.
because they want to be able to talk to you. Um, but they get frustrated when you say, well, okay, maybe I'll try to do it at 11 o'clock today, and then you get messed up and, something else steps in your way and you don't show up. Then they just walk away.
Hmm.
Okay. They walk away. So make the appointment, show up for the appointment, and you'll
Yeah.
be surprised how spirit has your back.
And I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
Comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy. It is. That's my whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah.
And be your authentic self because everyone else is taken.
Yeah. 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 Good point. Good point. Very good
Yeah.
point. Well, on that high note, okay, I'm going to close this down with our prayer. If everyone would join me, please. Holy Father, Mother God, thank you for allowing us to come together today in service of spirit. Thank you for this gift of mediumship that you've given us, and allow us to use this precious gift to help others who need your healing and love. Bless our friends and loved ones and protect them from sickness and harm. Bring joy into the lives of people who have sorrow, health into the lives of people who have illness, and abundance to the lives of people who have little. Thank you for the lessons that you've given us today, and help us to continue to build a relationship with you that is based on love and trust. And always, please help us to be the lights that change this world for the better. Amen.
Amen.
All right, great to see you. Thanks for coming. Next week, we'll be back to our normal readings. Okay.